No, put them back. Don't be very wicked. Who knows where the bookshop is, the Acts bookshop? Who would like to be made an apostle? Yes. What does the word apostle mean? Send. So I'm sending you to the bookshop. I am apostling you. You want to be my apostle? You know where the bookshop is? Go there and say, there, the teacher has need of books. And they will say, no idea what you mean. So you say, 20 copies of that, yeah? So take that. They've got them reserved for me, I hope. Thank you. All right. No. Good, you are welcome. I welcome especially the new students, but it's very nice to see some faces that I recognise, some names that I know, looking older and wiser. Sorry, just wiser. No, it's good to have you back in class again, and I hope you enjoyed and profit from it. So where are we? We have... Do you ever play hangman? Go on, give me a letter.
S.
Which?
S.
S. No. Go on, another one.
T.
T.
K.
Another letter.
H.
H.
B.
Who?
B.
B. You're very bad at this game, honestly.
A.
A. You're going to be hanged, my friend.
B.
B. No.
B.
E.
B.
What are you saying?
D.
D for D for dummy. D for dummy.
I.
C.
O. M.
Content. E.
That was just a trick. Context, remember? Context. Yeah, all the time. Context. Why were you created? For God's glory. So whatever you do, whether you eat or drink or study theology, you're doing what? To the glory of God. It means delighting in God, wanting to honor him, wanting to make his value, weightiness, greatness known. So God created man and woman, male and female. Genesis 1:26. Genesis 1:26. And somebody read Genesis 1:26 and 27, please. Anybody?
Then God said, let us make man in our image, in our likeness, and let them rule over the fish of the sea, and the birds of the air, of the livestock, over all the earth, and over all the creatures that move along the ground. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God he created him, male and female he created them.
Good. Let us make man in our image, in our likeness. So what does the image of God mean? Image of God mean? It means in some way man is like God, yeah? You have an image of person, image of a person, it's a likeness. Something is similar to something else. Something represents or stands for someone else. What's the difference when God says he made man in our image and he made man in our likeness? What's the difference between being in God's image and being in God's likeness? What's the difference?
Character.
Yep.
I think it is the same. It is a repetition for emphasis.
Yeah, that's what I think. Some people disagree. They say the image means one thing, likeness means another, but I think it's just repetition or emphasis. And so I'm using it, likeness and image, I'm using it to mean the same thing. Look at Genesis 5, verse 3. So man is in the image of God, the likeness of God. In some way, mankind is like God. Genesis 5:3. This is a written account of Adam's line. When God created man, he made him in the likeness of God. He created them male and female and blessed them. And when they were created, he called them man. Yeah. But then notice in verse 3, when Adam had lived 130 years, he had a son in his own likeness, in his own image, and he named him Seth. So Adam became the father of a son who was like his dad. Yeah. And he named him Seth. In what sense do you think is Seth like Adam? In what way is Seth like his dad? Yeah, in character, we would say in fallenness. Maybe he looked like him, yeah? Sometimes you see a baby and you know instantly who the father is or who the mother is. Seth is like Adam in what he can do, what he can't do, in his attitude perhaps, in his character. Maybe he stands like him. You know, I cough like my dad used to cough. Yeah? If I was in church and I heard a cough, I knew if he was my dad or not. He just had a certain cough, yeah? And I have the same cough. And I've told you before, when I was in Nigeria and my little 1-year-old son had just learned to walk, it's in the cool of the evening and I'm walking with him and I look down at him, little 1-year-old, where are my 20 books? You're not much of an apostle, sir. Sit down. He tried. Good, okay, thank you. And I look down at my little son, and he's walking like this with his head down, hands behind his back. And I'm thinking, what a strange way for a 1-year-old boy. I'm thinking, what a strange way for a 1-year-old boy to walk like that, with his head down and his hands behind his. It was a fabulous moment. And it was a terrifying moment. This guy is learning how to walk from the way I walk. And he'll learn to talk to his mother by listening to me talk to my wife. And he learns very readily to be grumpy because yeah. So Seth is like Adam. He's in the likeness and image of Adam. And we are created, Adam and Eve were created in the image and likeness of God. How were Adam and Eve like God in some way? In what way were they like God? Sorry? Okay, there's a number of things. What I want to do first is to actually say, well, look, Genesis 1:26 and 27 says, let us make man like us in some respects, not in every respect, but in some respects. And the first 25 verses have been showing us something of what God is like. Does that make sense? Yes. So the question is, what is God revealed to be like in Genesis 1 to 25? And is man like God in some of those respects? So what is God like in Genesis 1 to 25? Yeah, he's creative, yeah? So we can say that men and women are creative. We'll talk about that more in a minute. What else? Orderly, somebody said. Yeah, he does everything in a right order, logical order, the right sequence. And so we have, Adam and Eve were created with some sense of order. What else? Rational, yeah. Logical, he thinks, he plans. What else?
He's loving.
He's loving. How do you see that?
He created because he loved to.
Yeah, and then what does he do? When he creates somebody, he says what?
He's lonely.
He cares for them, yeah? He provides for them. He creates man and he provides for man. Yeah, so there's beauty, there's order, there's creativity, there's rationality. He speaks words of blessing over his creatures, and so on and so forth. And we see something of that in Genesis 1 to 25. And so we can begin to look and say, how does this apply to Adam and Eve? Yeah. Joe Capolio, a Zambian theologian, he has a book called The Human Condition. It's a little paperback called The Human Condition, and he picks out 5 areas to help explain the image of God. And the first area, he says, being in the image of God implies that we were made for relationship. We are in the image of God, and therefore we are made for community, for relationship. Why? How does that follow? How does that follow? So being in the image of God, being like God, means that we are made for relationship. Because God is relationship, isn't it? We said before, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, yeah? Fellowship, community. And so when God wants to create his image, what did he create? He created them. And when there was only the male, what did God say? Not good. Not good. It's only truly the image when both were there. You needed fellowship, the opportunity for relationship, for community, for fellowship. So a big part of being in God's image is community or relationship. Now, marriage shows us perhaps another aspect of being in God's image, the relationship between the husband and wife. That mirrors to some extent, doesn't it, the relationship between the Father and the Son, and also the Son and the church. But yeah, community, relationship. Rationality. Somebody said rationality. Rationality. Why? How do we see that in man and not in other animals? God is rational. He plans, yeah? He thinks things out. He does things step by step. He acts logically. And so when God makes his image, male and female, then he makes them able to think and plan and reason. We're different from the animals. The animals can learn to do many things, but only by repetition and reward, yeah? Some dogs are incredibly well trained. You can say to a dog, sit, and the dog sits, yeah? You say, lie down, he lies down. Say, come, stay. And they can do all sorts of things, yeah? You can watch them on videos, but it's just remarkable. But they can only do it by repetition. They've done it so many times, and they know when they hear this sound sit, that if they sit down, they get a reward, yeah? But they're not talking. They don't understand like we understand. They'll make different sounds. So dogs, one bark means I'm happy. Another bark means danger. But animals do not think abstractly. They can't think logically the way we do. You never find 2 dogs sitting down to discuss the meaning of life. Thank you, yeah, go ahead. Thanks. We learn to use abstract language, yeah? I can say to my 2-year-old grandson, please can you go and get the red book from my desk in the bedroom? And he's never done that before, but he understands, and so he can go and get the red book from my desk in the bedroom. Yeah? Now a dog might be able to do that, but you'd have to take him and pick the book up in his mouth and bring it back and do that a few hundred times, and then it would recognize it. But get the red book from my desk in the bedroom, my grandson could do that without ever having seen the red book before, because he understands abstract language. So in the image of God, what have we said? We said community or relationship. Now we said rationality. Third one, creativity, yeah? God has just been creating, And then he said, let us make man in our image. So man, we would expect, would be creative. How are you creative? Are you creative? Are you creative? Huh?
Through his word, by saying.
Yeah, but give me an example of how you are creative.
Yes.
Not how you are created, but how you are creative.
For example, the ability to take an apple and give apple juice. You see what is existing,
Okay.
turn it into something
Yeah,
different.
yeah. Okay.
Making a chair from a tree.
Yeah.
Yeah, good. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But also,
Yeah. I mean, I'm sorry, go on.
but also within procreation.
Okay, yeah, but
No.
that's a different sort of creation. Because I don't have much to do with consciously, decision-wise, what that baby will turn out like. I don't say, oh, let's have a boy, let's have a girl, let's have one with big nose, red hair. But God is so creative, isn't he? He creates trees. If I created trees, I would. There's a very nice tree, yeah, and I'd have covered the earth with that sort of tree. But God created hundreds of different sorts of trees, yeah. Hundreds of different sorts of dogs. Snowflakes. Every snowflake is different. Fingerprints. Everyone different. How are you creative? Well, in painting and writing and composing music and drawing and thinking in new ways, using words in a way they've never been used before. Some of you are very creative in your cooking. Actually, I've been creative with my wife away for a few days. I've been quite creative in my cooking, and I just wish I had a dog who could eat it, because I certainly can't. But you kind of cook a recipe and you think, oh, let me put a little bit of ginger in it, or a little bit of cumin, or a little bit of tangerine, or creative. Create drama sketches. Creative in doing your assignments if you don't use AI, because AI is not very creative. Animals and birds are not creative in the same way, if you think about it. Eagles have been making nests the same way for hundreds and thousands of years. Yeah? No development, no creativity in that sense. But what about man? To begin with, we lived where? Probably in caves, yeah? And then we decided to make huts out of wood, and then out of stone or concrete. And now we have buildings hundreds of stories high. Do you see how things have developed through our creativity? Adam and Eve, how did they get around the garden? Well, they walked, yeah? That's a bit slow, so we invent. What do we invent? We begin to ride on donkeys and horses. And then what? We invent the wheel, yeah. We make a bicycle, car, a boat, an aeroplane, a rocket, yeah? We're being creative. That's because we're in the image of God. Image of God, then. Creativity. Creativity. Fourth one is what? Fourth one I've got in the notes is love, yeah? Love. Yeah, go on. Yeah.
With the word creativity,
Yeah.
I was trying to think, currently man has, should I use created a robot in the likeness of man?
A robot in the likeness of man.
Yeah. Does this contradict God's moral laws or?
Yeah, well, we made a robot. How much is in the likeness of man is another question.
It is not.
And how creative they are. People say AI and transhumanism and all that. 50 years down the line, things could be really very, very, very interesting or dangerous. But there's nothing wrong with making a robot to do stuff. But I don't really think he's in my image. He can only do what he's been programmed to do, can't he? The robot.
It cannot eat.
It cannot what? It cannot eat. I'm sure you can make one that eats if you want to make one that eats. Yeah. Does it have a moral conscience? Does he love? Which is what we're coming on to now. So I want to say, yeah, robot machines. We create machines, and then machines can make other things. You know, robots can put together a car, but they're just doing the same thing over and over again. They can only do what they've been programmed to do. Love. God is love, yeah? We're in the image of God, then we must share something of love. We've said the Trinity, Father eternally loving the Son and being loved by the Son. And so we, the image of God, we must surely love. And that is a summary of how to live, isn't it? How are you to live? Love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and love your neighbor. Yeah? So we are in the image of God. We are created to love our God and to love our neighbor. And then fifthly, we have the word stewardship. Stewardship. So this is this man Capolio. He uses the word stewardship rather than the word dominion or rule. In the past, theologians would talk about the creation dominion or creation rule. The problem with words like dominion and rule, it sounds a little bit like domination and oppression. But notice when God makes us in his image, what is the result? Let us make man in our image, in our likeness, and let them do what? Rule over the fish of the sea and the birds of the air, over the livestock. So we are made to rule. We are called to be God's vice regents. We are his deputies. We are ruling on his behalf. Yeah.
Yeah, you're thinking about also creativity. Yeah, I don't know if the fact that a man is able to create something which is something which is looks like and looks like one of the part of the body.
Mm-hmm.
For example.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What?
No.
What do you say? We can make things that look like bones in our body.
Yeah, something which works like a body, it functions like a body, but really it's not. Yeah, I don't know if it's a seed or we could call it image. For example,
well, we can create, so we can create artificial limbs. We can create artificial bones. So my sister last year had a hip replacement. So they took out her own hip and put in a man-made hip, yeah? So in that sense, yeah, we're creative.
For example, also, I've seen someone using a penis, artificial penis.
Yeah.
I don't know, we can call it creativity or a sin.
A sin? Why would it be a sin?
Yeah, I don't know. It's a question.
You're saying you've seen somebody using artificial limbs? What did you say? No, what did he say? What did he say? Yes, what did he say? We can create things, we can make things, but that is different from what God made a living being. God made a human soul that can think and feel and worship, yeah? So yeah, use your creativity for good. But we'll talk about things in a minute, how we have used our creativity for evil, yeah? But for now, we're looking at the good stuff, yeah? Stewardship. Stewardship or dominion. We have delegated, we are given delegated authority. We rule over creation because God has put us in that position. We rule on God's behalf. So what implication does that have for how we rule? I'm saying we rule, mankind rules over creation but we are God's vice regents, God's assistants, if you like. How does that affect how we are to rule? Yeah, Jesse.
I think that the way we could rule, we could either be cruel towards what God has given us rulership over, or we could be loving and kind.
Yeah, so what should we be? We should rule on behalf of God, which means we should be doing the things that God would want us to do, yeah? That's the point. If you are ruling on behalf of someone, then you should do what they would do, yeah? So once when I was in Nigeria, the VC went away for a few months and I was the acting VC. But my job was not to do what I wanted to do. My job was to lead the college on his behalf. So I had to think all the time, what would the VC want me to do? So how does God rule? We are to rule the creation, how God rules. Look at Psalm 145, verse 9. 145, verse 9, please, somebody. Anybody? Yeah. 145, verse 9, please.